Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Fitness Industry Technologies Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke, and welcome. Today, we have an interview with Jeff Zwiefel, who's the Executive Director of Longevity and Performance for Lifetime Fitness. From being the head of product development for Nordic Track years ago to riding through the incredible journey of Lifetime Fitness with Bram, Jeff is really not only a very knowledgeable professional, he's just a fantastic leader. I love his views on the heart, leading from the heart, about employees' culture and organizational culture, the whole story of what's going on with their business and how it pertains and relates to health spans. And I just think it's a great talk. And Jeff finishes up with some of his pearls of wisdom. So without further ado, let's welcome Jeff to the podcast. Well, hello, Jeff, and listeners. I'm really thrilled to have Jeff Zwiefel, who most people, if they're in the industry space, know of by reputation because of his incredible career. And Jeff, thanks so much for making time to visit today on about a bunch of interesting things.
Great to be here, Bryan. Thank you for having me. It's my honor.
Well, we were talking a couple times before we were able to record this about your background. I mean, you know, from Nordic Track and heading up product development all through the life cycle of Lifetime Fitness, and your background going from gyms and fitness to what today is really a healthy lifestyle brand and doing a lot of very exciting things, which you're a part of. Tell us about that story, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Bryan. I appreciate the opportunity again. Like you, I've spent, I hate to say it, but 4 decades in the health and fitness and wellness industry. It really does date me, but you know, from strength conditioning coaching to hospital-based programming to 10 years at Nordic Track, as you said, as vice president of product development, and then leading what I would argue is one of the most ambitious wellness transformations in the country. In 1999, my journey with Lifetime and Bram O'Rourke, our founder and CEO, started. And he had a pretty amazing vision, I've got to say, and still does today, building this healthy lifestyle destination that would serve people from 90 days old to 90 years old. And I think it was a really courageous and innovative, and at Lifetime, it's a relentless commitment in everything that we've built. And I'm incredibly grateful for what we've been able to do and bring that vision to life. Bryan, we started kind of as just a gym and evolved into this national portfolio of luxury athletic clubs. And, it's been an amazing ride, and we just didn't build gyms. I know we get a chance to talk about that, but we built this idea of healthy way of life ecosystem. So it's been a great journey.
And so, I've been calling it the bifurcation of the market for a while now. It's been a couple of decades, and we've seen in books like Treasure Hunt and others the discussion of consumer demand really being split in two, to the higher luxury experiences and then the value delivery chain. Is that what you've seen happen in the last 3 decades in the space in general? And how did you all just see that occur, or how did that come about with your vision in the market and what was going on in the last several decades?
I think it's a really great point to illustrate, because yes, we have been seeing it grow and evolve and become much more clear in the consumer behavior and in the segmentation coming and how it manifests itself in the health club and gym category, for sure, as you've seen. And you note so eloquently, Bryan, that probably around 2008, 2009. And we during that Great Recession, we even tested some low-end concepts at the time, but as part of our overall portfolio. But we failed really miserably at it because at Lifetime, we're really clear-headed and committed about participating and owning and ensuring that everything that we're doing is increasing the moat and deepening the moat relative to that differentiation strategy. And Brahm's point that we make all the time is how we're creating a high barrier to entry in what we've characterized as a very low barrier to entry category. So I think the consumer has been very clear about the separation, as you mentioned, of the high end and low end. And as we saw, everything in the middle has kind of been destroyed.
Yeah. And in doing that, you created sort of a moat. I mean, I really don't see another competitor in the market directly to what you all done. And to achieve that, of course, at scale, you've had to really create some unique experiences, programming. How did you go through that process of innovating through the shifts in the marketplace while you were doing this? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, don't you know it? And when I joined Lifetime, we had 7 clubs, and now we have well over 180 destinations, and we're now a $2.4 billion revenue company, 1.5 million access members, and another 2 million digital members. And I think scaling a business is one thing, as you know, Bryan, but scaling a mission is a whole nother. And
different.
The clarity of that mission, the consistency of the execution, as you well know, and creating the emotional connection with the 40,000 plus team members as employees, as I think our North Star, and the one thing that helped guide us was this idea of MPV that was planted very clear and early and consistently, is a member point of view. So everything that we did was our North Star. And we invested so heavily in Lifetime University, which I ran a number of years ago, which was our training and development certification arm of the company. And we had this commitment with our team members, every team member, that we knew that they knew. You can't really hold an employee or a team member accountable to anything, in our opinion, unless you've invested them and you've established a clear understanding of what the expectation is. Right. And at that time, then we can hold that standard and make sure that, we've always said that what defines us is, the weakest or the lowest execution that we have in the market. And so it was really, we were just relentless about it. And it's what has allowed us to scale with soul, not just systems. At Lifetime, we've recently been recognized as one of America's top 100 most innovative brands. And, we never lost sight of what matters the most, our member and our team member. And that's something I've been really proud of.
It shows up in so many subtle ways when you dial into that. For example, you may not realize it, but when you call your location destinations, it's not just when you talk about that, a lot of people describe what you just described as the importance, but you can hear it in the language that's used. You can hear it. There's so many nuances that show up with companies and leaders that they really understand what you're describing. So when I hear things like destination or other things, that it is in the DNA of the organization.
Yeah, it's not about a store, right?
Yeah.
That destination has a persona.
Yes.
It has a life, and an evolution that has largely been determined by our leadership and the culture that they've conveyed and maintained throughout that life of that destination, as you say, that is a community. And Bryan, as well as anybody, and our listeners know it, but I want to echo it really strongly, is what makes up a club, a special club, is the like-minded people in that club, right? We talk about the six senses as we assess and audit the execution of our destinations. And that sixth sense is that energy, and that energy that comes from the connection between the members and the team members, right? And that community and that tribe and that part of being, with people of like-minded and that emotional connection. And so I appreciate your recognition of that. And that's something that, investor asked us when we went public the first time in 2004, what are the 2-3 things you do that makes the lifetime experience so special? And, Brahman, our response has been, if it was 3 things, any monkey would do it, and it would be really simple. But as you know, it's thousands and thousands of things every day, which, really create that uniqueness and that ability to have differentiation.
Yes. That's hard to do. Creating a fabric like that really takes a lot of energy. So, that now that you've built that base, that sense of the DNA of the organization, you've been really, and I know you've been part of, as everyone knows, some of the more recent programming and efforts dealing with trends like HealthSpan and other services that you all have been on the forefront of, Jeff. Talk about those trends. Tell us what your view of that is, and how you're delivering those services. What do you see that as today and tomorrow?
Yeah, I think, as you know, Bryan, and both of us have been students of the industry, and we think about the wellness economy, and I think our peers can all know the unbelievable explosive growth in this broader category, 6.3 trillion. It's proposed to grow to 8 trillion by 2027. I mean, that's 60 times the traditional fitness market. And yet only, as we know, that 10% of healthcare dollars go towards prevention. And we have this other kind of paradigm and dichotomy where 4 in 10 Americans are living with 2 or more chronic conditions that are largely prevented by the tools that we have, lifestyle. And we also know, on top of that, there's 1.5 trillion going through GLP medications. It's more than gym memberships.
Yes.
And 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. And the one that really strikes me in this area of longevity and anti-aging and performance is the average American spending the last 14 years of life in chronic poor health. And, that's where it really comes to life, I think, for all of us with families and experiences and legacies that are lost. So, I think we're seeing the Gen Zs, of course, and being more engaged in fitness than any other community. Of course, we all know the growth that's happening relative to strength and Pilates and functional longevity. And I'm just so excited about this next phase of the journey in longevity, and where now I think this convergence is happening for the first time, where the consumer is just not going to accept anymore the idea of these age-related norms and being a break-fix model of traditional healthcare. They're looking now more than ever. And they are continuing to be confused because there's so much misinformation and lack of trusted scientific-based resources. But at the same time, they're looking to try to have control over their own health more than ever before. And through what we're doing with Miura, we think we have a massive opportunity to create a one-stop shop solution. I've been frustrated for many years, and now in my early 60s, I'm that person that's looking to continue to try to extend optimal living and optimal health in a way like ever before. And so it's about, feeling better, looking better, quite simply, and living longer better. And that's very simple. And, we can only take our members so far with our 3,500 or 4,000 personal trainers. And then we had to refer them out somewhere else. And they could either go to a primary care doc and probably get, a really short period of time with that GP, and not many blood biomarkers to be able to really understand what's going on. And of course, as we know, they don't have the time or the access to nutrition and exercise education. Or the consumer could go to the other end of the continuum to a Fountain Life or, a Cleveland Clinic or a Mayo Clinic. And so it was only available to the uber rich or the athletes. And so what we've tried to do is democratize longevity and make this available to everyone with comprehensive blood work, taking them through hormone replacement therapy or GLP-1s, but making sure that it's done under the supervision of a GP, a nurse practitioner, or a PA, and making sure it's also done with extensive blood work and biomarkers, and reassessing those biomarkers every 3 to 6 months to understand whether moving, those down the field in a way that's truly improving the quality and quantity of their life.
Yeah, there's certainly a need in the market for that. I mean, I'm your age, in your realm of age as well. I've had a concierge doctor now for 7 years. And it's not that expensive, but the whole paradigm of delivery is just, and Jeff, from what I've read, and you're certainly a greater expert than I am on this, but the biotechnologies that are coming, I mean, we're just getting started with respect to what these technologies are going to do, which, I mean, to me, tell me what you think. I think that's just rising tides lifting all boats as credible alternatives start to emerge. And you do the things you're describing and talk about an impact to a lot of people's lives in the realm of health span.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Bryan. I think we're starting to get so much clearer understanding of what the potential of, biological age versus chronological age, right? What, as you said, health span versus lifespan is coming so rapidly to the forefront. I think we're understanding the connection to the gut microbiome and the brain axis. We're understanding, the importance of sleep and the connection to mind, and how we can preserve focus and reduce brain fog like never before. People are looking for this vitality, right? They're looking for energy and connection and clarity. I mean, so from CGMs to, you name it, NAD, consumers are ready and interested in, blood glucose blood biomarkers. They're looking for personalized and proactive solutions like never before. And you're right, the science is coming right there with it. In what we have the opportunity, and I would argue, as the responsibility with it is to be that trusted, respected, science-based source. Because with any great gold rush like this, is going to come so much, bad actors and scammers, and we've got to help consumers provide clarity and cut through all that and be a really great source for them. And it's really difficult to do right now, as we know.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you all for being in that market, because I think that there's so much that's emerging there. It's going to be a fascinating realm of the next decade or more. So talking about programming and the journey through such a great brand and all the things that you've contributed to, we talked earlier about balancing, you talk about scale and you talk about performance. You're running and part of a large company with Brahm. I mean, a huge business with, tens of thousands of employees, millions and millions of members, billions of dollars in revenue. So, and you're a public company, so you have to balance the performance KPIs with the humanity of actually having people inspired by a mission. And how do you culturally and from a leadership perspective keep that balance where it needs to be?
Yeah, it isn't easy.
Yeah.
Bryan, it's a challenge every day because, of course, in what we're taking on, we've got to look at membership revenue, membership access, membership attritions, day in and day out. We need to look at swipes. We need to look at net promoter score and revenue per member. But, the difference maker has always been and always will be, in my view, the emotional connection, the sense of belonging, the emotional connection of helping people live happier, healthier lives. I think we shared a really interesting quote on one of the posts you did on LinkedIn, and where I said, in the past, jobs were about muscles, and today they're about brains, and in the future, I'll believe they'll be about the heart.
Yeah.
And I've really started post-COVID in a really clear and courageous and compassionate approach around operations from the heart, as I called it. And it was really about making sure that, as you say, you have this really clear, balanced approach of making sure that, yes, we're a performance-driven company. We must be. And we have to have outcomes and growth and month on month and year over year growth in all the key metrics. But at the end of the day, the brands that scale successfully and continue on with the legacy long term are the ones that do it with empathy, with benevolence, with integrity, and trust, right? And so that's what I'm most proud of, the legacy that we've created, and the one that I want to make sure we carry on is the transformation that really is done from leadership from the heart, with that really tremendous balance of the metrics and the KPIs, but at the same time, making sure that we have a deep understanding and empathy of what the hearts and minds of our members and team members are. We had a 1994 Harvard Business Review case study that I've led with forever, that really breaks it down in the most simplistic form, is really just starting from having those happy, engaged team members that know what's expected of them and love what they do, and they're casted for the right role that they're in within the organization to be successful, which translates to the really happy and engaged members, of course, that create raving fans for us. And that ultimately translates to the kinds of financial results and returns that our shareholders are really looking for. And that's called the Harvard, it was a Harvard Business Review called the service profit chain. And a very simple but clear approach that we've led with for many years.
Yep. It's an excellent case study and good reference point. Kudos to you all for balancing that. And I agree with you that the future is about the heart. I really believe that. And it's going to become, I think, for very successful organizations that figure that out, a clear and clear path that's going to provide better outcomes for organizations that adopt that. So, Jeff, you went through this journey. You've shared so much wisdom. I always like to ask people like you who, like I have a little gray in my hair, given your life experiences, what are some pearls of wisdoms you would share with our listeners, things that you've learned, wisdom that people should keep in mind through their journey in business and in life?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bryan, because, doing what we've done, I think it's hard, but the acknowledgement of those most difficult times in our lives are the ones that usually are the ones that generate the most significant transformation as we look back.
Yes.
And so I just want to really be clear about the fact that after the 40 years in the space, when I think about advice, it's about where I've failed. It's about where I've missed before, that I can humbly and vulnerably share, hopefully, this perspective and this, North Star for us that was really about not building, trends and fads, but building for transformation and rooting yourself in science and truth and what actually works, building a legacy and working backwards on what you want to create as your story and making sure you think about it that way. I love the quote from Confucius. It says, we have two lives, and the second one begins when we realize we only have one. And that this idea of longevity, I apologize, Bryan.
It's all right. It's okay.
But time, I just got to take care of that.
It's all right.
But ultimately, I think you have this opportunity to reverse engineer your life. And, that's what I'd leave people with, is think about that North Star and what they want to leave their legacy with, and reverse engineer it.
Yeah. Begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
And it's a Covey orientation. And then also the one I love is, as is mentioning that is, there are no shortcuts, folks.
Yeah.
I wish there were.
No. And that is the part that makes you a better leader, makes you a better person, creates the resiliency and making sure that you see the whole field. In my life, I never had a shortage early in my career on drive and what I'd say grit and competitive spirit, growing up as an athlete, growing up as a coach. And so I could always handle that pressure. But I think the growth has been through many of these learning situations, like the Great Recession, COVID, and many things, is again balancing that with empathy, with benevolence, with love, and this idea of operations from the heart, and making sure that you constantly are digging into allowing people to see that you have this clear understanding that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
It's
so true.
True in leadership. And when people can adapt that, they truly are able to elevate their game.
I agree with that. I agree with that so much. That's great wisdom, Jeff. Well, Jeff, thank you for sharing your time with the audience. Listeners, of course, we're going to have all the links to Jeff's stuff online, so you can learn more about him if you don't already know a lot, which you should. Jeff, his background and his experiences have been truly transformative, and there's a lot to learn from Jeff about a lot of things. So, Jeff, I really, really appreciate your time today. I know how much you have going on, and I hope to chat with you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Bryan. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you, Jeff.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.